Hi, gorgeous lights. Welcome to the new day. Been having this ongoing argument with Spirit for the last couple of weeks, and it's really, really interesting because we're in this relationship energy right at the moment, and we're also in some planetary alignments that are really shaking up the whole world and bringing changes into the whole world. If your planets go into Aquarius, which is get real energy, so we're seeing the dropping of illusions and everything like that. So having talked about it, and there's so much going on in the off worlds, it's absolutely incredible. So to this end, Spirit actually said to me, they said they would like me to put a video up about journeys through the passages of time and everything like that, and the way that I actually see things as well, in the small snippets of things that people see me do, and I actually work with them, and the understanding that there's an awful lot of people out there just like me, and they want people to actually understand that you're unique, you're amazing, and you're incredible. There's no one else like you here, and this is a year for exploring your own possibilities as well. And they seem to think in sharing some of that understanding, it will help you actually to realise that you're allowed to actually celebrate your uniqueness, and they keep calling it your unicornness, to actually make you realise that the incredible power that human beings actually really have as well. So part of me goes, I have no idea where to start, but I do get a lot of people asking me whether I have actually been like this my whole life. So probably start there. That's probably about the best way to start. So I've learned an awful lot along the way as well. So, I do know that the earth plane journey is all about your growth as a human being and a human experience, because you actually are a spiritual being, and there is multiple different kinds of beings down here. The rule of thumb seems to be, and it's been for a very, very long period of time, and I remember a lot of my incarnations, is that to have the best experience is to incarnate into the meat suit or something living or indigenous on the planet as well. So I remember deciding to come back to incarnate into this lifetime, particularly for this period of time. So, I chose to incarnate with a twin. There's two sets of twins in our family, boy, girl, and there's 3 years between the two of us as well. So my twin and I were very, very telepathic. And basically we were very used to moving energy, being able to move energy, and being able to talk to each other telepathically as well. So we at times could have some delays in wanting to actually talk in English as well, because of course telepathy, and I will let you know, we're all supposed to be telepathic. It's just that we fight so much in our own heads that we actually don't have the clarity to be able to separate our thoughts away from the babble of everybody else's thoughts around us, and our own babble that goes on in our head as well. And I kind of know that we will come to a time where we'll be able to actually rework how we actually communicate with each other as well. But exactly, and they're just saying to me, it also degrees of honesty is what it actually depends on. And quite often we know in our daily life that we're actually not honest in the things that we actually say to ourselves, let alone what we say to other people. So anyway, back to childhood as well. So for me, it was always very confusing, because I can see colours around people, auric colours around people, and particularly when I was young, I could see them really, really clearly as well, like tangibly feel like I could actually touch them. The thing that was really confusing to me is that those colours mean something. So if you come for a reading with me, I will tell you what your auric colours look like and what those colours mean to me. The shades of the colours are like nothing that is here on the planet. For every minute subtle shift, it means something different, and so it's like learning a whole other language as well. But for me, what was really disconcerting is what came out of people's mouths, so it's still a little bit disconcerting, does not match up with what they actually think. So their words and their thoughts and what's in their heart is not in alignment. You would need to have that all in alignment before you could be telepathic as well. So my twin and I would spend a lot of time, even though we were little, with this big curiosity about the planet, about people on the planet and that sort of thing. He was just as awake and aware as what I am. Then we got to about 3 or 4 years old, And we sort of found the body's really, really clunky and really, really hard work outside of the body. You're very, very light, your energy, so it's not contained. So there's all that learning. So just think of it and cut the kids some slack when they get so frustrated that they're trying to operate their body. Just remember that the reason why they're getting so frustrated like that is they're used to being light, and light can move with the power of thought. Absolutely. So being in a human body is really, really hard work, and it's really frustrating to learn to move it as well. So cut all the grandies and children some slack. So we would talk about that quite a bit as well, and then we would talk about where we came from. So he had memories as well. So at the end of the day, I was around 4 years old. He said to me that he did not want to remember all the stuff from home. And he didn't want to pay any more attention to it as well, because it made him feel too lonely that he wanted to go home, even though we had come down with a specific purpose as well. So he started to shut himself off at that period of time. As he started to shut himself down to the connection and to the understanding and really surrender to the human experience, which is a really, really big thing to do, Spirit picked up the ball and they started teaching me from Spirit. And they basically, they used to take me to my great grandmother's, it was like a farmhouse, and I would be shelling peas, and she would be telling me all about things to look out for, things to pay attention to around people, what I could use my senses for my understanding, where I had to trust myself, where it was going to get me into trouble, all of these sort of things. And then she was teaching me that about spirit people, about the different levels of spirit people, where some people get stuck and they don't quite go to the other side, where some people get caught up in a parallel experience, so they go over almost to another space and they have another experience over there, and all these layers and everything. And I was just little, so I was just like, to me it was just like stories, it was like I would go to bed and be put kind of in a bed or a cot, and then I would go off into this other world, and I would have all these amazing experiences and stories, and then wake back up and then having to do the human experience again as well. So it was a little bit confusing for me, but really, really interesting at exactly the same time. And I will say this categorically, the only thing that you actually need to be in contact with your intuitive side is curiosity. That's it, just curiosity. Not did I make this up or anything like that, but exploring curiosity, because it goes through your imagination as well. And your imagination is completely tied to your intuitive side and your spiritual side as well. So anytime that you're being creative, you are more in touch with that side of things. And curiosity is the only thing that kind of keeps it going, exploring. So they also gave me a really big bag. It was a huge sack when I was little, and it had what it felt like linseeds in it. And I used to run my fingers through it, and I'd ask them what they are, and they said, well, these seeds later in your life, you will hand out these seeds to other people. And you'll never get a chance to see them grow. You'll never get a chance to know if they water them or they plant them or anything. You're just basically part of your role is to give out seeds. I worked out years later, it was just snippets of wisdom and insight and that sort of thing. And people could do whatever they wanted to do with that, because no one should be telling anybody else what to do. It's very much about your reality is driven by your perception of reality, and the universe is responding to you this way as well. So yeah, childhood was really interesting for me. It was very, very tactile. It was about really learning how to work the body and everything like that. And of course I had this wonderful, there was 4 of us, so we had this wonderful dynamic where there was always 3 other people to play with, or 2 other people to play with if you'd had a falling out. So part of the human journey is also about surrendering to the human journey and being fully present on it. You're already a spiritual being, remember? So it's about being fully present in the experiences, which is why we forget as we come through the veil. We're actually supposed to forget, so we actually be fully present as well. So we had animals, and we lived in this amazing place as well. It was really great, but of course a lot of our family is incredibly psychic, and when you combine energies together in one spot, then you get an awful lot of psychic stuff that actually goes on as well. So it's really, really important for you to actually understand that you know, for me, that was incredibly confusing, that I would see these things that were going on and nobody else would see what was going on. There was wardrobe in a room which I shared with my sister. The wardrobe door would always open at night time. There was always faces in the curtains. My sister's incredibly psychic, and she would always see an awful lot of things as well. So, you know, we shared a room, so that just upped the old energy. There was things underneath my bed that used to reach out and pull the bedclothes off and things like that. So it was stuff that was actually really, really terrifying to the kids. I used to sprint across the hallway to our bedroom, and unfortunately the door was the wrong way around, so you had to go around the door to the light switch. And Mum used to say, oh, for goodness sakes, why do you have to run up the hallway? Because of what was behind the front door, which was all glass, there was always something really big standing there, and the next door neighbour's curtains were red, so when she had the light on, it was illuminated red, so all I could see was this great big thing standing by the front door. So I'd literally sprint, and the whispering, so it used to crack me up because you know, it cracks me up now, but at the time it was really scary, like all the whisperers that you hear in the horror movies, that went on all the time. That went on absolutely all the time. So I had a lot of nightmares. I used to burrow to the end of the bed so spirit couldn't touch me, because they would touch me all the time as well, to try and wake me up, and there'd be a little old lady there, or there'd be people there, or it was just genuinely really, really confusing. And Mum and Dad would come in and find me at the very bottom of the bed, underneath all the bedclothes, and pull me back out again so I didn't suffocate, and put me back. And of course, as soon as they'd put me back and any part of me was exposed, my face or my arms or anything, the spirit will touch up and start touching me again. So I'm very much an advocate for helping people who have children that are saying there's something in my room, or there's something under my bed, or there's something going on. You have to understand, as children, they're rules and conditions that says you can't do that, or you can't be like that, is not there. And they're wide open, so they're beautiful light beacons for spirit. And so children can have an awful lot of problems with saying, you know, just terrifying their parents by going, there's someone in my room, or there's something under the bed, or you really must realise how powerful children are. They're very much magnetising, and it's not just this realm. You know, it reminds me of a funny story. My youngest one, he was awesome at opening portals to other worlds, and it would be, you know, I could be, he would be about 5, he'd go to school, and I'd go in his room, and I'd, like, you know, I remember vividly pulling up the bedclothes and looking under the bed, and these enormous, almost cat-like eyes looking straight back at me, and me going, I'm just going to vacuum under here, the cat's under there, and then taking 20 seconds to actually realise that that was not a cat. There was something really massive under there, and I would always have to close these portals that he would be busy opening, and leaving it open in his room for all sorts of things to come through, and then him having a whole lot of nightmares because he'd left all these open. I'm sure this is the type of thing that I was doing when I was younger as well, because there was always stuff that, as I said, that was actually going on. And my mum was really, really well-meaning, and she knew that I was absolutely terrified of the dark. I wasn't terrified of the dark, I was terrified about what I could see in the dark, and she used to sit with me in the lounge in the dark, which made it fundamentally 50 billion times worse, because all I could see with them, and I couldn't really explain to her what I was actually saying as well. So it was a very, very complex childhood as well. At the end of the day, these are, you know, I look at these experiences, and I'm so grateful for the experiences, because it was all part of my learning to actually learn to adjust, to accept that I could see these other things. And has it got me into trouble? 100%. 100%. You know, when you're a kid, you have a tendency to blurt out things left, right and centre, and I did, and I got in trouble for it quite a lot as well, saying that person's sick, or that person's there, or whatever. But, you know, or there's something outside the window, you know. Remember vividly drying dishes one night, and a face appearing right outside the window. Now, there's no way that anyone could stand there on their feet and be level with the window, but this person was right there, and of course everyone stampeded outside, and there was no one there, and I was feeling absolutely humiliated as well. So, you know, when people are taking a risk to say that they've seen something or experienced something, it's really, really important to just actually go, okay, because it is their experience, and their brain is so unique, and we're as unique as our fingerprints, as I said, and a lot of people are having experiences and will have experiences, and I'd love you on this particular video to talk about your experiences as well, because at the end of the day, you know, things happen around people and we minimise them because we think it might sound silly that we actually say, well, this actually happened to me. I'd love to hear what's happened to you. You know, put some in the comments, because I think we are all in this together, and you are a spiritual being, and the spiritual realms are, and other realms are all the way around us, and people see weird stuff all the time. And you're not to judge yourself for that as well. You are actually in touch with the universe, and these platforms are actually available to absolutely everybody as well. So, you know, and this wonderful, wonderful Nina on my mum's side, and when we stayed there, the spiritual energy would also go through the roof, and she had 3 people in her house, and she knew it, and she would get up every morning and all the cupboards and drawers would be open, and she'd just shut them all very gently and say, you know, just mind out for the man with the wooden leg who walks up the hallway. And she was absolutely matter of fact about it as well. In a lot of ways, she was absolutely perfect for me, because she was so matter of fact about it. It just happened, and it was there. So I would talk about the people that were in her house with her, and she would go, oh, just don't pay any mind to them, they're absolutely fine. Most of the spirit people don't hurt people. She was just absolutely fabulous to have. But it was confusing. I had mum saying, you know, there isn't anything there, and then I had this lovely grandmother saying, yes, that she had these experiences as well. So it was all part and parcel of learning to grow who we actually are. So this is the first video about the first part of it as well. So I will put up some other ones. But in the meantime, let me know your experiences. Put it in the comments. I would absolutely love to hear.